Let's go live and hope somebody shows up to talk. If it's not, we'll just sit here and have a conversation, okay? What do you want to talk about? Why cats make a superior house pet over dogs? What? He says that's not even worth talking about. Well, you got any other ideas? Oh, he just wanted to demonstrate how to take a real cat nap. That is one of his greater talents. And I might say he is excellent at it. I get first billing, okay? That's satisfactory. Okay. For now, he said. We'll see how it goes. He's thinking that more people may show up for him than me. So if that's the case, we might have to change it. And right now, he's right. Wow, I just figured out my microphone's picking up when I rock my chair. I didn't even hear it until I heard it on the microphone or the headsets. You're getting heavy. He's a happy boy. Happy boy. Good morning, Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Mike Wheeler is in the room. Now, that wasn't that kind of noise, Mike. I didn't think somebody with as fine-tuned hearing as you could tell the difference. That's my chair squeaking. I didn't even know it was squeaking until I heard it myself through my headphones. How are you this morning, sir? Hey, Tina. Yeah, I'm thinking about. He's kind of wanting me to rename my morning chat to the Tim and Teddy Hour. I'm pretty good, Mike. I'm sore. I'm sore as heck from yesterday. I had therapy yesterday. my hips are both hurting, and I had a COVID shot last night about 7 o'clock. That seemed to be doing anything. I thought I might have a little touch this morning, but so far so good. Barely felt it when they gave it to me. It was kind of funny. Tickle me, Tina. All right, he's getting down. He's had enough stardom and fame. Car key. Good morning, Carol. Are you on your way to swimming? Carol, did you get here before the kitty cat left? He was up here looking for you. I caught him batting you around in the floor yesterday. I guess you fell off the hook. But he's a bit of a brat like that. Good morning, the all watcher, Miss Tina McNeil, folks. Tina, I tell you what, I'm gonna, if you don't mind terribly, and if I can remember how to do it, would you mind if I made you well, I'll have to remember how to do it. A moderator, so Mike doesn't have to. Well, Mike's not even showing up as one today. What have I done? Not that I really think I'm going to need it, moderators, but. Well, Mr. Ryan, good morning, sir. Oh, I have. Okay. Oh, that's funny. A minute ago, I was looking on the wrong page. Excuse me. That's my lack of experience there speaking, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there's a lot of people on. It's probably be a thin crowd in here, but we'll have fun for a little while. I know there's several people, I think, at the parks. And Carlos is probably on, which I'm almost surprised Tina was here. She's usually with Carlos, moderating for him. But I'm certainly glad she's here. Tickle me, Tina. So, James, how is New Hampshire this morning? Are you guys going to get any of this new cold and snow that they're saying is blasting the upper Midwest, or is that going to skip right over you guys? Oh, okay, Tina. Well, if that gets too busy over there, feel free to step out. This is a pretty tame chat so far. I can't imagine really anybody bothering us. There's nothing. I don't think I'm a threat to anybody. Leanne Sherbet, I don't see her. Is she? Oh, there she is. Good morning, Miss Sherbet. Nurse Grumpy. No, that's not true. That's not right. I can't remember what I said. Oh well. Let's see who was it in MASH? It was Nurse Goodbody, Nurse Cratchit, Hot Lips. I can't remember the rest of them. Wait a minute. What did I say? It wasn't fit for children. Did I zip slip and don't even know it? That's possible. It's second nature as it is to me. Sometimes it's hard not to. You know what I mean. I know you know what I mean. Okay, Carol, be safe on the road. You can listen in. We won't talk about you. I promise. Well, we might a little bit, but not too much. I got this show specifically marked not for children, Leanne. Was it the stuff about MASH? They might see it on TV. How many of you even remember the original movie for MASH? Mike, come on. That was my chair, and you know it. Mike's trying to start something. He's trying to say there was something else going on, but there wasn't. Except I was holding the cat. Mike, you know something? You have a great deal of... No burritos last night, Missy. Had a chicken sandwich, in fact. Mike, you know, you wield a great deal of influence around here. You give people names like, you know, Gummy Bear Tim. They stick. And now you're starting rumors about strange noises in my studio here. What's it going to cost me to get that stopped? That's true. That's true, Mike. You can't prove anything. No visual. I am this morning, Tina. I'm moving decently. My wife even commented last night that she's amazed that I'm not exactly walking, but I can walk with a cane if I walk really slowly and take just a few steps at a time, as long as I can lean on something. And she was, I don't know if she was surprised or impressed. Might not be the right word. She's probably take a lot to impress her as far as I'm concerned, but she was pleased to see that I was able to move around. But I am hurting. That my legs, my hip muscles, or my hip joints, and my quads, especially my left one, it's hurting. It keeps me awake at night. I don't get a lot of sleep. I usually end up napping during the day a little bit, but falls, no falls. I've not had any falls, not in a long time. Yeah, Mike, pick on Leanne for a little while. Give her a new nickname. Hey, Mike, that's not fair. Lovable zip slip queen, that's kind of nice. I mean, lovable. I'm not even lovable gummy. I got grouchy from Leanne and gummy from you. This is going to end up costing me a lot of money just to, you know, pay you off. Well, James, I'm glad there's finally some light at the end of that tunnel. I saw that on the news this morning, they're saying parts of the West may get a record snowfall. I don't know if that's for this time of year or for any time of year, but the weather looked like the jet stream is going to go up and miss over you guys. Well, Tina, I appreciate that. I'll have to take that into consideration. It's squishy. I don't know. I used to have a cat we call Squishy Mouse. Well, grouchy might have been given to me prior to surgery. If I'm honest, it still sticks about half the time. Especially when I come out of therapy, I'm usually fit to be tied. Oh, I would appreciate that, Leanne. I really would. Hey, guess what? They were had a different therapist again yesterday, but he wants to put me in a swimming pool for a couple of weeks. So not next week, but the week after, I'll probably be in a pool. He thinks it might help me get to be able to walk a little bit better. And I hope he's right. If I could get this left leg to quit hurting so bad and quit cramping so bad, it's getting stronger. I'm able to use it. I mean, I can move around. It's not easy to get up, but they don't have a pool at my center, but they've got one. They've got space rented somewhere around nearby, so I can go over there a couple hours or hour or so, a couple days a week, and he wants me to give that a try. Oh, come on, Mike. Grizzly bears are cool, though. I mean, I don't mind if people think I'm mean, a little mean, but I'll get that. And besides that, black bears are my native species around here, so that's okay. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to aquatherapy. I mean, I've actually done a little bit of that before, so we'll see how it goes. But they think it's the nerve involvement, but I've been taking some supplements of potassium just in case. My wife keeps bringing me bananas home, but I'm kind of bad about not eating fruit sometimes. So I think she's been eating most of them. And I like bananas. I don't know why I don't eat them, but for some reason I don't. But I have been taking a potassium supplement for that. Sometimes it seems like it helps. Sometimes it doesn't. In fact, I haven't had it in a week or so I probably need to start again and see if it makes a difference now. But they do think a lot of it's the nerve situation. Well, have you ever heard of this? Okay, I know you're not. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say you're not mean. I think you're not mean, but sometimes you can be a little bit bossy. Just saying. Goes with the territory. Yeah, that's what I can't get my wife to do that, Mike. Why don't you talk to her? I'm gonna put her on the phone with you one day, and you tell her I need banana bread. She makes really good banana bread too. I don't know why she won't make it. Oh, I was gonna say something now. Oh, Tina, that would be perfect. I bet the pools down there are even more therapeutic than the pools up here. What do you bet? Anybody else agree? We have a vote. Somehow I'll get a hand in here. Well, I can probably eat peanuts again now. My teeth are healed up. Potatoes are one of my favorite foods, period. In fact, potatoes and corn are probably my kryptonite. And careful, Tina. Now you're starting to sound a little bit like Leanne. I wouldn't want to put you in that same category. We don't like to ask for directions either. Just saying. It's because we have magnetic boogers, according to Tim the Tool Man. Yeah, I whittled my wooden teeth, Mike. I got to say, just like George Washington now. You know what? I'm going to ask for that, Tina. If I can get that in a prescription form, maybe I can get insurance to pay for half a trip or, percentage anyway. Because I think the pools, I could probably go down there and just spend a few weeks and shit, I might be right as rain when I get through. I'm sure I'll feel better. Yeah, Leanne, that's what they keep telling me. There's been a dramatic change since surgery. I know what I was going to ask you. I've had a therapist talk to me, well, tell me twice now. I've been doing it a little bit. That she was suggesting I take cloth and start rubbing it on my leg like a soft cloth and work my way up to like a terry cloth, something rough, to rub it on my skin so that my skin starts adjusting to the feel. Have you ever heard that? Yeah, no falls is a big improvement. Although I almost fell in therapy yesterday. The guy had me doing some, I think I was doing setup, setting, standing. He had me do a few of those, which I can do if I can long as I keep my balance and I've had something to hang on to a little bit. But I got up and was standing there, and I started over to one side, and I caught myself, but he saw me. And before I could catch myself, he was about to make a dive. And I got caught, and I stood back up, and he said, "Oh, I thought you were gone there." And I said, "You and me both, buddy." My skin was hypersensitive, I would say, Leanne. I couldn't stand anything to touch it. It's a little better now, but it seems to, like, if we were in a car and Brenda reaches over and taps me on the leg to get my attention, not that I'm deaf or anything, but if she does, that used to just run shockwaves through me. And even the cat rubbing up against me sometimes would do that. And it would just drive me crazy. It's just it just runs all through me. It's a little better. It's not as bad as it was. Come here. You come up. You come up. Come on, stand up. That's what she says, Mike. Okay, if anybody missed him before, here he is. I don't know if you were here when I said this or not, but he's decided that we should rename the show Saturday Morning Shine with Tim and Teddy. Although he told me that if he thought more people were showing up for him than me, which I told him was possible, we might have to go back to Teddy and Tim. So that's something you had heard of then, Leanne. I wasn't sure, but I mean, yeah, he's a biggins. He's probably the biggest cat we've ever had. I have another cat that weighs the same, about the same. He's pushing 20 pounds. But this cat's tall and long, and he's a big boy, aren't you? And his sister, same litter, is teeny tiny. I hadn't thought about corduroy. I'll have to see if Brenda's got some corduroy in her sewing room. Yeah, he's mostly a lover. He's not much of a fighter, but he likes his daddy. He seems to want me to hold him when I'm online talking. That's usually when he walks over here and wants me to pick him up. So, I mean, there's something he's wanting to show off or something. See, now down he goes. He got his 5 minutes. Well, that's okay. I'm glad that wasn't just something she was thinking. Leanne, I appreciate that. I've been doing it some. I haven't gotten too crazy with it, but I have used it on my feet and stuff. He's a cuddler. He usually comes in and lays down with me at night for a while, but he's real picky about how he lays. If I go over and lay down on the couch, I've got a couch down here. I stretch out on when my back hurts. Yeah, that's true. But he'll follow me to the couch, and again, if he steps on my leg, he jumps up on me. And he walks on my leg. I just want to kick him off, but I can usually hurt him off of it fairly quick. But then when he stands on my chest while he's getting comfortable, his feet feel like they're going to punch right through. He's a sweetie. Hard to believe he used to fit in this pocket. I mean, I couldn't cut him up and get him in there now. Yeah, they know, Tina. I swear they know what you're doing something else. I don't know if it's a jealousy thing or just they want part of your attention or what that is exactly. All right, Tina, I'll get me some stuff together. Brenda's got a room full of fabric from her sewing, so I'm sure I can find enough materials there to make it work. Hey, Chris, good to see you, my friend. I hope you're feeling better this morning. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Carol. I can try to get him back. Let me see if he'll come back. Let me mute my mic for a minute. Well, he's not coming right this minute. He might come back though in a couple seconds. He's like that. Oops. Got the chat all confused. If he comes back, Carol, I'll make sure to hold him till you get back online or till you can see. And if not, I'll send you a picture. Always good to see you, Chris. I'm glad you made it in this morning. And I just realized I didn't call you yesterday. Yesterday got to be kind of busy. I apologize for that. With therapy and then COVID shots and that sort of thing. What if I called you incredibly bossy? Would that work? Oh, you talking to me, Tina, about the shot? It's fine. I didn't even feel it, to be honest. He did a real good job. I was a little bit concerned about how long that needle was. Lynn, good morning, Miss Lynn. Folks, the Lynn Project is in the room. Certainly always good to see you in here. We were just talking COVID vaccinations. Well, a little bit. I'm not sure. Tina, are you on my side or are you on Lynn? What are you saying exactly? I want to make sure I'm in the right spot here. That she's incredibly bossy. I mean, maybe not all the time. What kind did he have, Tina? I actually got the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. They said it would take 3 to 4 weeks before it's fully effective. I think they say 2 weeks maybe on the other one, but that's okay because I don't have to go back and stand in line and do another one. But it took me a few days to get signed up once I became eligible. But it was funny. He came out. I can't walk very well. I was on a cart and, or, motorized chair or whatever. And so he came out of the room where they usually give them and gave me mine outside there, or not outside, but outside the pharmacy. And he popped it in and we were kind of talking. He pulled the needle out and he started unwrapping a Band-Aid. And he got the Band-Aid ready and he couldn't find the injection site. He said, "Where'd it go?" I said, "Well, hell, I don't know. You did it." He said, "Can you not find it?" It didn't bleed or anything. So he just wadded up the Band-Aid and threw it away. He said, "Well, I guess you don't need that." So, I thought it went great. Thank you, Lynn. I know some people are concerned about them, and I know some people think they don't want them, but I'm all about the vaccinations. I'm too old to be silly, and I'm I don't want to have to worry about. I feel like now if I do get exposed, I'm not nearly as and likely to end up in the hospital or deathly ill. So I think it's worth it. I haven't really sunk in. I know a lot of people have said they felt like a relief that they just didn't have to worry about that. And with my kids, who I don't think are always as socially responsible as they should be when it comes to this. I think it's probably a good thing I got a shot. But I'm afraid also that they'll look at that and say, well, Dad's okay. Mom will be okay when she gets hers. We don't need to take one. I don't know what I thought I raised them a little bit smarter. I'm not trying to start an argument about it, but I think it's a good thing. And I'm not worried about it. I mean, I'm not worried they shot me full of a microcomputer or anything like that. But I was certainly glad to get on the list finally and get one. Mike Wheeler. I don't know if my chair will spin. I mean, it does spin, but I'm not sure it would stay up if I spun it. And not to mention the fact that I might, I'm not sure my back could take it. I would give her a hippo spin. I will give her a hippo chair spin when I feel a little bit better. Okay. That's a promise. I think we all owe Lynn a few hippo chair spins. She's what's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of the golden light that brightens up our days when she's in the room. You're welcome. That's true, though. I think that's true. You're one of the most effervescent people I think I know. So, and you've been a big help to me getting things started and doing stuff. So, yeah, I don't know, Tina. I disagree. I mean, I'm not gonna. Again, I don't want to start an argument or discussion. Really, I know people don't like to discuss that, but this virus killed a buttload of people, and it keeps mutating. And the more it mutates, the more dangerous it gets. It doesn't act like viruses like the flu. It's reacting so much quicker, and I hate to say it's smarter because viruses aren't smart, but it's just, I think we got to do everything we can to stop it. Leanne, you have a great day. Ta-ta for now to you too. Let folks say goodbye to the incredible Leanne Sherbick. You bet we are, James. We get closer every day. I think it's going to happen. Probably be this fall, but it's going to happen. I haven't made a reservation yet, but because I'm still, a bit skeptical, I guess. But I'm certainly going to get there. And I love you, Leanne. I'm just, messing with you. Hey, Amy, AGC Magic TV, welcome in. Glad to see you this morning. We're about halfway through the show. And just welcome everybody. I think I've spoken to everybody that's come in so far. If I haven't, please let me know and reprimand me. I'll make sure I do. Hope everyone's got a favorite cup of coffee or orange juice or milk or whatever you happen to drink of the morning. Harder if that's your choice. Cup of tea. I'm sure I've said it. This is my current brand of coffee that I like. It's called Death Wish. Coffee sucks, but I really like their logo and their hat. No, seriously, I like the coffee. It's really good. I don't even care what their logo looked like. If the coffee wasn't any good, I wouldn't drink it. Yes and no, Chris. The legs it's a little sore from yesterday working out or therapy. They've got me doing a lot of stuff using my legs now more than before. So I'm setting up and doing some what they call shallow knee bends. I think that's what they call them. Not a full blown, down a deep knee bend, just part way down and back up. But that's all using muscles I haven't used in several months. So I'm sore. My hips are what's bothering me more than anything. And I think I've mentioned before, but my left leg, ever since I got the numbness in it, it goes through spells of cramps. At night, it just sits there and, cramps up and down, stops, cramps. It makes it really hard to sleep. I mean, it's almost worse at night. I don't know if it's when I'm starting to try to relax that it does it. I should ask Leanne about that too. I will next time. A Warbird's coffee. I don't think I've seen that. I did see something new on Instagram the other day, though. They make a coffee that's supposed to be not for them necessarily, but named after submariners in the submarine corps, or submarine corps might not be the right word either, but the submarine group in the Navy, the Silent Service. I saw that online a couple of days ago. It's also kind of intriguing. It's got a neat logo on it too, but I think I'm going to stick with what I got for right now. No, I do like it, Tina. I was kidding. You got to watch me. I've been known to, stretch it just a little bit from time to time. That's my nature. I grew up in a family that told tall tales, and I guess I learned it from my uncles. For example, James, I bet you didn't know this, and you're a New York native, but according to my uncle, that's all I'm going to say. But according to my uncle, one of my uncles, he played baseball for the New York Yankees. Yeah, he was really good. He pitched, and if necessary, he caught. At the same time, according to him, he could wind up and throw the ball to home plate and beat it to home plate and catch it. If the batter didn't hit it, then he'd take it back to the mound and wind up again. Not many people can do that. When I was a little kid, though, I believed him. He could tell some tales. Now, it took me a while to figure out that my Uncle Jack was had the Irish say had the gift of the blarney. So there's some more stories I'd have to tell you someday that he told me. I wish that I had gotten him to tell me those stories again later in life and recorded them so I would have the whole stories. And just as I was working on that, he passed away. So my fault. I didn't get started soon enough. Which mom, you, Lynn, or your mother? I didn't even think about it that way. Now you've turned it into a whole other thing. You got 40 coffee beans. See, I've always been on your side on that subject when the boys and Sean started in on you. Now I'm having second thoughts. Yeah, James, that's pretty much how it was. Of course, you know how that was. We didn't have. I don't know about New York, but out in the sticks and in the hills, you didn't have a lot of TV. If you had TV, you only maybe got one channel, whatever the local closest station was. And if you really got that, you had to put that antenna. Well, that's what you said, but now you seem to know a lot about it, Lynn. So I'm starting to wonder. You went right to that silent service thing and turned it all around from submarines to, SBDs. Anyway, what so you didn't really sit inside and tell tales. You get out, and we usually sat out in the front yard under the trees. They had a couple of, I think, big maple trees in the yard, and they'd gather us around. I guess maybe I was gullible since I wasn't with them full time, but uh, he and another one of my uncles, especially, they would start in on telling some stories, and they fed off each other. And actually, it was, looking back on it, they were quite amazing. They had vivid imaginations, but they were Mike, but they were good. Most people around here wouldn't know. I mean, most people probably in this room wouldn't know anything about it, but University of Tennessee's football stadium was open on one end for years. They referred to it as the horseshoe and the open end of the stadium. And that open end of the stadium was on the Tennessee Riverside. And my uncles had me believing that they both played for the University of Tennessee. Now, neither one of them ever went to college. I'm not even sure either one of them ever finished school, to be honest, but that doesn't matter. And that's right, Blue Nose, not the not the dive bombers. But they both had me believing they played for the University of Tennessee. They kind of alternate up between being a lineman or a blocker and a tailback back then. Where they took my dad was a tailback in school, which they didn't have quarterbacks. But anyway, my uncle said they got rolling one day in a game. I can't remember who, probably Alabama, that was the big rivalry from ever and ever. They built up a head of steam, one blocking for the other one, that they, with their heads down, they ran right through the end of the stadium and knocked the whole end of it out. And that's why they left it that way for years and years, was as a memorial to my two uncles for, knocking that stadium end out and winning the football game. Now, if you don't believe that, I'm sorry for you, because I'm sure it's true. I mean, they told it to me. Surely they wouldn't lie to a little kid. A fart vortex. Yeah, Lynn, I'll be honest with you. I feel sorry for you. I mean, I grew up in this house, all women, so a little different. Sometimes not a lot different, but a little different. I see what you did there. That was creative, Lynn. She needs to put in a really good ceiling fan. Not the kind that flips on your light, but the kind that sucks up through the ceiling and blows everything out of the house. I used to know a guy that had one of those in his house, and he could flip that thing on, and immediately you had a breeze blowing through the whole house. It was actually did a good job of cooling the house down. It's kind of loud though. I should write that down, Lynn. Fart vortex, stuck in the whirlwind. There's probably a song there somewhere. Has anybody got any big plans for the day? It's rainy down here. I'm sure we won't be doing anything. In fact, I'll probably end up on the couch here in a little while and watch the morning news, I guess, recorded, or listen to the radio for a while. That's true, Tina. They do have very similar ones to that. That used to be a way some people really cool their houses in the summer, and even when it was hot, it felt like it made a difference. It really caused a breeze through the house. I remember he turned that thing on. It just, for a minute, felt like it's going to suck you right up in it. No, I bet matches aren't allowed in Lynn's house. If they are, I'd be really careful with them. So, Tina McNeil, how do you know about body shops? Is there a story there, or is that just something you happen to know? Willy Wonka fan. Well, that's cool, Tina. You've been doing that for a lot of years. I wasn't really associating Rubens with the Irish. I guess I just hadn't thought about that, but it makes sense. At least the roast beef. That is, if you eat the roast beef kind. Now, some people tell me that their Reubens have pastrami on them, but I don't think that's a real Reuben. I've heard of them blue nose. That's a good suggestion. You might go look them up, Lynn. Well, James, it came up, and then unfortunately, I probably, I've tried to just figure out if, Lynn was telling the truth or why she knew so much about it. And then it kind of got sort of had let's see if you get this, a current of its own. You know what I mean? It came in like a breeze. Yeah, we can't blame it all on her, but she did bring it up first. That's why I was beginning to suspect, maybe she wasn't being completely honest with us. But I'm going to stand back and take her word for it and say she doesn't do it. It's her boys, and just let it go with that. James, I got the Johnson & Johnson last night. I don't know if you're talking to Tina, but that's the one I got. And so far, I was a little nauseous this morning, but I think that was just me. I have that problem sometimes. We could talk about spiders, Chris. Which ones would you like to know about? Brown recluse, black widows. I know about that. See, now Lynn's jumped in there. Now she don't want to talk about something. She want to talk about flatulence, but she don't want to talk about spiders. I like that, Tina. I used to say that all the time. Let's not say we did. We can talk. How about snakes? Anybody want to know anything about snakes? I can talk snakes too. Okay, James, you're going to force my hand here. I got to tell a story. A couple of professors that I had in college, and I know these gentlemen, so I could kind of see them doing this. A friend of mine was at a banquet dinner kind of a thing one night with them. He also had one of them for his major professor when he went back and got his master's degree. So here's these two, and so picture yourself, you're at a university mixer, and there's all these professors standing around in their tweed jackets with the leather patches on their elbows, and very sophisticated. And they're sitting there holding their glass of wine or glass of scotch or whatever they happen to be drinking, and they're sitting there and they're chuckling about something. And so my buddy walks up to them and overhears the conversation, and here are these two very dignified gentlemen that he looks up to because they're professors. He overhears what they're saying, and one of them just looks at the other and says, you can't help it. Farts are just funny. And they both start laughing. So, it goes all the way up the food chain, so to speak. I don't know if that's a good way to say that. Even academia has that, thinks it's funny. So what are you going to do? Rat snakes can be extremely gentle. Blue nose. My granddad used to keep rat snakes in his barn to help with the mice and rats to keep them out of the grain he fed his cattle. And he'd get upset if somebody killed a rat snake, at least around on his farm. And I've seen him, turn one loose in there just to keep them handy. He had some cats that ran around, but nothing takes care of a rodent population like a couple of rat snakes. And they are very gentle. They calm down. If you hold one, they calm down really quickly. And I'll tell you another story. You may or may not believe it, but it's true. When I was growing up, lived in the country, wild as butt kids, it wasn't really much of us to catch a snake, bring it home. And we brought one in one time to my grandmother's, and that thing was it was a black rat snake, and it was over 6 feet long. And I can remember seeing and catching snakes that long quite often back then. But in all my years as a wildlife manager, I never saw one even close to that. I think I did see one that was probably over 4 feet one time, and yay big around. And but I think this whole fear of snakes thing has killed so many snakes off that you don't see big ones anymore. I had a real true story. My mom didn't like snakes. Of course, even though she was raised on a farm, she still didn't like snakes or much of anything else. She always blamed it on us kids. I was afraid it'd get you kids, But a big snake came. I was at school, and my brother he's 4 years younger than me, and he was still home. So he ran in and told Mom. But this big rat snake came out of the garage and curled up around the door and started down the inside. And it was a big one. It was over 7 feet long. They measured it. And there was a guy going up and down the road mowing the ditches, the sides of the road with a mower. My mom went out there, flagged him down, and gave him a hoe, HOE, and had him kill that snake because it was, going to get Tommy, which it wouldn't have. He broke the hoe on it, so he had to get something else, which brings me to another thing. I think hoes were originally invented not for the garden, but for rat or snake killing. I totally believe that. Anyway, he ended up killing it, of course, so it was still there when I got home, and I was terribly upset that she had him kill it, but it was really big. In fact, my dad was even upset, I believe, because he'd grown up, like I said, turning them loose in the barn. But so my girls were raised different. They were never afraid. I've had my daughters run up to me and say, "Look, Dad, we caught this." And it might be a ringneck snake or a garter snake or a little black rat snake. And I've had a couple of king snakes. King snakes can really calm down too, and they're pretty and they're very beneficial. King snakes actually eat other snakes, including poisonous snakes. They're not affected by the venom. And I've seen one eat a whole rattlesnake before out in New Mexico. It's amazing. So, I mean, you don't want to kill king snakes on your property if you're afraid of poisonous snakes. All right, my story's over. Let me catch up here. Which part did I clarify, Mike? I get going, I forget what I say. Florida actually has some huge snakes, not counting the exotic ones that are in the Everglades now. The rattlesnakes, eastern diamondbacks. It wasn't too uncommon years ago to see 10-foot diamondbacks in Florida. They got really big. Okay, Lynn has a question. What's the deal with love bugs? It's almost seasonal when they're annoying. Well, I don't know everything they do. I mean, they're just part of love bugs are just part of the ecosystem. But what makes them so annoying is when you see them and when they're all over your car is mating season. And they gather in big clouds. And what they're doing is, put it in layman's terms, is having sex right there in the way of your car. So they gather in these big clouds and they're always everywhere around. And I don't know, I don't know what they do in nature that makes them beneficial. I'm sure bats eat them. They'd be great bat food. Because bats eat mosquitoes and all kinds of bugs that size and larger. But so I don't know if they. Here's the thing: you gotta. I know this is hard to put your hands around sometimes, or wrap your mind around. But literally all bugs have some purpose. I mean, there's some other creature out there that depends on those bugs to survive for food or pollination. Love bugs don't pollinate, I'm sure, but you know what I'm saying. They almost all bugs have a purpose that we don't readily see a lot, and so I'm sure love bugs do something like that. I'm sure they're a food source for the next species up the ladder, but I'd say mostly what they provide is a food source for birds and bats and that sort of thing. That's why we go around and we spray and kill everything and along roadways. And I know they spray for mosquitoes in Florida. I'm sure they used to. I'm sure they still do. But it goes up the food chain. A bat eats that, and then something eats a bat, and then it just keeps going. And what you get at the upper levels is concentration of the poison, and that's when it tends to have an effect on the higher species. That's what happened to the American eagle. The bald eagle was almost extinct when I was a kid in the 60s. They were just about gone, at least in the lower 48. Alaska never really had this problem, but we did. And the whole thing was about DDT. And what they figured out was that when you sprayed insects and pests with DDTs, by the time it got up the food chain to the bald eagle, it was collecting in their bodies and their systems, and it made them lay eggs that had super thin shells. So every time they'd lay eggs and sit on nests, they'd crush their shells. Well, after a few years that you got no new eagles. And then after a while, you got no old eagles. And they finally put two and two together and figured out that was what was causing it, which is sad because unfortunately they still sell that stuff in some foreign countries. And everything has a ripple effect if you really look for it. And some are more detrimental than others. You're not going to agree with this, and people right now are crazy about it, but I think that even all this antibacterial soap and cleaners that we use on everything, especially during COVID, I think someday that may come back to haunt us, because at some level, the bacteria we're killing is a food source for something above it. And maybe even something below it. They feed, they may feed on another pest that's even worse than they are. So it all links together. And now I got to catch back up. Oh, I see DDT. Well, they do make a mess, Lynn. I know what you're talking about. I've lived in there long enough to see them cover the front of a car. They're you ought to ride through them on a motorcycle. They cover you up pretty quick. Yeah, they will. They will peel your paint if you leave them on there too long. Flying porn. Jeff would say that. Well, that's one way to look at it, Tina or Amy. They no, that's not you said that. Oh, bye, Amy. Glad you stopped by. Thank you. No, Carol said that they died smiling. Well, that's that's the way to look at it. They should have been reasonably happy. I think so too, Tina. We survived millions of years. Well, we survived for a long time without washing our hands, but just washing your hands with soap and water, if you do it right, I think it's just as effective as what we're doing. A lot of people do today. And this started even before COVID. I mean, I know people that just put that stuff on their hands constantly. And every bottle of soap or every bar of soap they had in their house is antibacterial. And I think in the long run, that's not going to be beneficial. I think that's one of the reasons why so many kids have, peanut allergies and things like that today, because they're sheltered from so many things when they're little, because people are afraid they'll be allergic to it, that they build up a allergic reaction to things. I think we got immunized when we were kids to everything. As George Carlin said, him and his friends swam in the East River, I think in New York, and he said we swam in sewage all the time, so we got inoculations every time we jumped in the water. Maybe he's right. Mike, I've never heard that. That's interesting. I don't have to worry about that up here, but we do get gnats and that kind of stuff in the air. Thank you, Amy. Have a good day. Now, let me catch up here. Blue nose, poison dart frog is poisonous. Whoops. By the amount of toxic ants they eat. That's true. That's where they get it. Good point, blue nose. So, see, there's two species that are, one's actually feeding off the other, but the upper one is getting a second benefit in that it's, getting that poison, which protects it from most species that would eat it. Now, I think there's a few species that can eat it that have built up a tolerance to that poison, but which is usually how it works. I mean, what a species that's poisonous to most things usually fits a niche for something else that's not affected, so they can survive on them, and that's how they all fit into the chain, the food chain. You can do that here, James. We go down to Oak Ridge below the nuclear reactors down there and swim, and you can come out and glow for a few days anyway. That's what we used to say, or people used to say. That's the home of the two-headed snakes and three-headed frogs. Some of which is true, unfortunately. Oh, I'm afraid I'm trying to keep up, guys. I'm just fish flies. What are fish flies? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that term. I know that country up there is full of black flies and all kinds of no-see-ums and other gnats and biting bugs. I don't know if I've ever heard of fish flies. I'll have to look that up. That would be good, James. Carol's got a really good idea. Maybe you could go out and participate in one of the nighttime parades at Disney. That'd be a good way to retire. I'd do that. I might have to ride on a cart or something, but if I could glow in the dark, I'd certainly march down there and do it. That's good to know, Mike. I'll have to keep that in mind. I get bugs all over my motorcycle and stuff sometimes. I'll have to try to see if that will wipe them off. Okay, Carol, what do you mean by 13 and Harper? Is that a road and a town, or two towns, or I'm going to ask, so because I have to know these things. Somebody else might want to ask me someday, and I got to lock that away in here. I didn't know that, Blue Nose. Well, I guess I'm not too surprised, but I know there's a few up that way. Okay. And you know where that's at. Did you guys actually grow up close together, Lynn and Carol? Okay. See, down here we might have said, down at that big oak tree with the limb broke out of it. I used to know people that moved down from the north where all roads were numbered mostly. And they say, how you guys find your way around down here? I said, nothing's got a name on it, which was true. We were bad about not putting up road signs and stuff for a long time. When they finally brought in the 911 system or 911 system, they finally started making all these counties put signs on the roads. So now you can kind of find your way around. Some of them had to make up names for. Some of them actually didn't even have a name, but almost none of them have numbers. We have mayflies up here too, Mike. Mayfly hatches are a big deal if you're a trout fisherman. The mountain streams and the rivers here that they have trout in them, trout love those things. So when they're on a hatch, people go out and create, flies that imitate mayfly, even mayfly larvae, and to catch trout with. Really? Blue Nose, is that because they're out of date and won't refurbish them? That's what I usually hear. They decided the expense is too great to to do the upgrades to keep them going, which seems, I don't know if you're pro or anti-nuclear, but it seems a heck of a waste considering what they paid for them, put into them to build them. Coming from a New Deal organization that built quite a few of them in the 60s and 70s, I kind of know what that's about. That's why the company I work for, or the agency, the federal agency I work for, was looking into these new modular reactors that are much smaller and more contained and could be changed out much easier than a full-blown reactor like they used to build. And probably just about as efficient, but you can put in 3 or 4 of them in the ground in big, like silos, as opposed to one big one on top of the ground. I don't know. We'll see. Well, that's possible, Mike. Blue Nut Chris. They might have. Nuclear power is expensive. It is clean, with the exception of the, leftover stuff. But I think it's pretty safe all in all. I mean, there's only been one real nuclear accident here that we know of. And I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I think you got to weigh out which one's worse: burning coal and fossil fuels, which is killing us, versus nuclear that might carry us through till we got, better stuff. At least it's cleaner when you do that. Secret superhero storyline. Flintwater's my Fiji, I tell them. Oh God, Lynn. Well, you didn't grow up anywhere near Flint, did you? Honestly, I feel sorry for those people up there. That's been a heck of a mess, and they still haven't fixed it. From what I understand, it's still a problem. I'm sure it does, Mike. Or I keep seeing Mike's name above yours, Chris. But I have mixed feelings about wind turbines too. I think they're good. I think they're clean. I think they do a lot of good things, but they can be detrimental to migrating birds too. And I'm sure low-flying planes, which you could find. I mean, I can't imagine running into one of those things. That'd be a bad cracker. That might work, Lynn, if you could bottle that stuff up. Now, who's going to do that, though? If you can get the boys to take care of it, then, you might be on something. Yeah, Tina, I never thought of that until this year, and they talked about the ones out in Texas freezing up. But I also heard that had they winterized them properly, that wouldn't have happened. So I don't know. Hey, Joy S., how are you this morning? Welcome into the Saturday Morning Shine. No, I don't blame you there, Lynn. I don't think I'd get close to that, as they used to say. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Mike, you don't forget anything, buddy. How are you today, Joy? You having a good Saturday morning? What part of the country are you from, if I may ask? Don't have to get specific, just state. I'm pretty good. I'm in a pretty good mood. I've had 2, maybe 3 cups of coffee so far, and I'm kind of fired up. I'd agree, Blue Nose. And they're really pushing solar down here again right now. They did years ago, and the major. Hey, buddy, it's Carol. Are you in here? Can you see the screen? Come here. Come here. I'm gonna pick him up, Carol, if I can catch him. Come here. Somebody wants to see you, Dodo. Now, Carol, here he is. I hope you can see him. You want to look at the camera? Come here. Look at the camera. Show Carol your handsome face. Yep, he's the star of the show. Were you in here earlier, Carol, when I said he wants me to rename the show Saturday Morning with Teddy and Tim? It may have to happen. That was almost a chair spin, but you noticed, Lynn, it was slow motion. There was nothing fast about it. Virginia, Joey. Well, that's not too far away. We're sort of neighbors. I'm in East Tennessee. Grew up just close to the Virginia-North Carolina state lines in the corner of the state. I can do a full chair spin, Lynn. Let me do one. I just can't do a fast one. See there? Yay! That's what you'd call a handicap chair spin. Yeah, that makes sense, Tina. And you're right. I'm sure somebody made that decision that when they were told they should winterize them several years ago. I think 5 or 10 years ago. All right, hop down. 5 or 10 years ago, they were told they needed to do that, and they chose not to. And that's probably exactly why I don't know how many years out of 100 they don't need it. And this year it just bit them in the butt because they did need it. Which school, Joey? Not that I went up there, but I know a lot of people that did. Yeah, Mike, you didn't see it. I'm sorry, buddy, but I did a chair spin, slow motion, but still a chair spin, and it was complete all the way around. It was just kind of slow. It's harder to do when you just got one leg. Oh, Tech. Okay, yeah, I knew. I worked with a bunch of people that went to Tech, or Virginia Tech, excuse me. Go Hokies, whatever Hokie is. I know what they say it is, but anyway. But glad to have you here. If I get back on my feet, I want to take a motorcycle trip up into Virginia. And I've never been on the Skyline Parkway. I think it's called up there, at the upper end of the Blue Ridge Parkway. I'd like to ride both of them end to end. All right, a 10 for 10 in the Paralympic chair spin competition. Yay. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. You're too kind. Take a bow. I think it's further south. I'm not sure how far down below Tech it is, but I'm trying to think of the city now. I can't think. Hungry Mother State Park was the place that we went from time to time. That's probably a lot further south, although you may remember it. I mean, you may have heard of it, but it was a neat park. Yeah, they screwed up, Dana. I mean, the bottom line is they just goofed. And I think they're going to be paying for that for a long time. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. They may get through it, but I've got a feeling that some people down there aren't going to forget and forgive too quickly. It's unbelievable the amount of damage that did to houses and apartments and things where pipes broke and burst. And you can't really blame that on the people. They had no control over it for the most part. I mean, even if they'd had heaters on their water lines, they wouldn't have done any good. I was going to say here it was. I'm seeing a lot more ads telling Blue Nose. They're running a lot more ads down here for solar systems to put in your houses. And I don't know if this is a national thing yet or not. It may be, but they're giving some the right word, inspirational things to get people incentives to get people to, put solar in their houses and put like a Generac system in that can store up electricity for emergencies and hang on to some of it. And they did that once before back in the late 70s. I actually think Jimmy Carter had something to do with that when he was in office. And the Tennessee Valley Authority, which was a federal agency, they did a thing where basically if you put solar water heaters in your house, after about 3 years, it paid for itself. So you really weren't out any money. And I knew quite a few people that did that. And not trying to be political, but when Reagan came into office, he annulled all that or erased all that, and they quit doing it. In fact, the White House had solar panels on it up until he was in office, and he had them take them off. I know that for a fact because I knew a guy that went up there to service them. He went up every year to take care of them, and he went up there one year, and they told him to go away because they'd removed them. They were no longer there. So I don't know. I don't know what gets into people's heads sometimes. I mean, they weren't hurting anything. They were saving the White House us electricity or cost, but I don't know. They didn't like them, I guess. Maybe they didn't look good. But it was a thought. I mean, I think that's a good sign for people to see and realize that, if they're doing it, maybe we could do it. That's just me. That is a problem, Tina, and I get that too, because it's kind of like that here. I mean, we have a lot of trees, and there are places here where solar works. It depends on your house, but it's cloudy here quite a bit too, especially in the summer months. I mean, we get a lot of thunderstorms and rain showers, especially in the evenings. But I think it would help. I've seen that. You should drive the country a lot when I was working. My reservoir that I was manager of was north of here, 30 miles, and out about a 200-mile loop if I had to go around it completely. And there was a couple of farms up there that had put in some big solar panel arrays. Now, I never really had time, and I didn't do it. I should have, but I'd like to have stopped and just asked them, what are you running with the solar? How's it helping? Is it doing the job? And somebody bought a house just down the road from me, and he lives on a corner, and there's not much trees in that area, and he's put in a big solar array. I know some people might say that's ugly in the neighborhood, but it looks kind of neat to me. I mean, it's well done. It's not ugly. You could probably throw some ivy on the poles and have it look a little bit better or something, but that would help. That we don't have a lot of wind here, or I don't think we have enough wind here in the valleys to really run wind turbines either. But where they put them here up on the mountaintops, which again puts them up higher for airplanes to run into if they happen to be not paying attention. But we've got a few of those around on the peaks around here. You can see them on a clear day. Like the sun will hit them and they're just brilliantly bright. And I don't know about out west or where like Blue Nose's area, but down here they're huge. I've been up to the side a few times and stood beneath the things, and their size just blew me away. I knew they were big and tall and all that, but these things are monstrous in size. Okay, I believe Lynn is leaving us. Lynn, thank you very much for showing up. You make my day when you come in. I appreciate that. When you and Josh are ready to fire back up, we'll talk about that. And I don't want to interfere with your guys'. It's already after 11. Jesus. I don't want to interfere with you guys, and we'll work that out. I appreciate you guys just, let me use the space. So I do thank you. And you have a good day. Have a good evening. Hopefully work will go well. It's always, like I said, it's always good to see you. Thank you. Well, folks, I guess I could start shutting down. I don't want to keep people too long. And I know there's, as someone pointed out earlier this morning, there's lots of people streaming this morning. And I'm sure if the weather's decent in Florida, which I don't know what it's like, I'm sure they're if the weather's decent, I'm sure there's a lot of people streaming for sure. Bye, Lynn. Oops, my hand. Where's my hand? Here's my hand. And we'll stay for, well, we might as well stay at 11:30. I got a few more minutes. I mean, stayed this long. But, and I appreciate everybody coming in and listening to me ramble and joining in the conversation. I've seen pictures, Chris, of areas up there where they're just, it look like hundreds of them. I don't know how many there are in the state, but the Great Plains are really, I mean, that's definitely country forward. The wind blows, once you get on further west, the wind blows just about constantly. Yeah, Mike, I think, well, they were earlier. I don't know if they still are or not, but they were earlier. Tina would know. Tina sees all. I would say that I'm going to go watch them too, and I might, but I'll have to probably lay down for a little bit and let my back stretch out, relax my hips a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to know if they have a number on those things, Mike. I'd really like to see just how many they are, and I'm curious if those up there are the same height as the ones they put on the mountaintops here, or if they're taller or shorter. It's really hard to tell by looking if you don't have a reference to size, because some of those things are out in the major flyways for migration, and I just wonder how much monitoring they're doing of that. Yeah, Carol, they're huge. The same thing here. They were carrying them up onto the mountain through the local town when they were building those. It's been, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. And I ran up on a truck one day that had them on there, and I was flabbergasted at the size. Man, like I said, I knew they were big, but they're just huge. I took a co-worker up there one day. She'd never been up to see them. So we had some time one day. We were heading that area anyway, so we drove up there to the mountain, and everybody couldn't get it. You could drive on the mountain. A lot of the mountains privately owned, and they have 4-wheel drive courses and a use area up there. But when you actually get up to the turbines, you got to have key or ID or whatever. But we got up there, and when we got there, the fog had settled in over the mountains, and we were literally parked right below one of those turbines. Now, I would suspect that it was to the side of us a ways. We were sitting on the road, and it was up here, but we couldn't see it at all. But we got out of the car and turned everything off, and it was quiet. And it sounded like it was just above our heads. I'm sure it was further. But you can just hear this whoosh, 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 whoosh as the blades went by. They weren't turning very fast, but it was kind of creepy, actually. I mean, it was just like something was over your head about to decapitate you or something. And I'm sure there was distance between us, but it was a strange feeling. You could kind of feel it in the air or feel it move the air, but the sound of it I thought was quite amazing. Well, that's big then. Blue Nose. If they've got 300 feet diameter, that's 150-foot blades. That's pretty big. And that sounds about right. I think these here are somewhere in that neighborhood too. So probably about the same size then. They're interesting. I mean, they really are. There's something else that's interesting about them. I don't know if you've ever noticed, Chris. I know you know what I'm talking about when I say they feather them. They can feather the blades on those things, which is, instead of having them catch the wind, they just turn them straight into the wind so they don't move. And the ones down here have a speed limit. So if the wind gets too high, you got to turn them off. You can't run them at those speeds. They have to shut them down. So they just feather them, and air just kind of blows around them. And they may even have a lock or brake on them. I'm not sure about that, but I've seen them shut them down because of too much wind a few times down here. I was up there one day when they were doing that. It's just the blades just slowly feathered into the wind, and they stopped. No, Mike, I haven't. I heard the I heard a little bit of audio when they first got up there, but I don't remember that part. I'll have to look for that. I've been trying to keep up with it. Have not done so in the last few days. Some of the images I've seen up there, though, are amazing. I can't wait till they fly the helicopter. I think that's going to be really impressive. I'm guessing, Chris, that most of that's computerized. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of turbines. I'd hate to think there's some guy out there pulling feather handles to stop all those things. So I'm sure it's speed related. I'm sure they've got a governor on them, and when they get up to a certain speed, they just probably go automatically in the feather. So describe it, Chris or Mike. What does it sound like to you? A man with, a tuned hearing, and I mean, did you hear Sherman the Martian saying something about a P-238 modulator? Because that would be a little creepy. And here we thought Bugs Bunny was just making that stuff up. Okay, I got 6 minutes, so I want to wait and see what Mike and Chris come up with for a sound. And then I'll probably be letting everybody get going. I'm sure like I said, I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me yap. I'd like to invite some folks to come in someday. So if you're interested in sitting in and, being on camera and talking, let me know. I don't mind sitting here talking. I'm afraid people get bored of me pretty quick. Not that I don't have a lot of things to talk about. I can always talk. Good morning, Shelley Starwalker. Always good to see you, ma'am. Shelley, if you guys don't know, is a photographer extraordinaire. I mean, for somebody who's not been in that business but a few years, she's amazing. I worked half my life trying to be a good photographer, and I think she blows me away. And some of your photos are just fantastic. I'm still wanting to get back into that business. Really, Shelley? I didn't know that. I know there's noises that they record off, out of the radio waves off things in the solar system, but I hadn't thought about planets. That's interesting. So I wonder if you get out near Saturn and it gets foggy, if you can hear those rings go swoosh, swoosh, swoosh as they spin around. Cassini. Well, that makes sense. Oh, you're serious, Mike? I thought you were trying to tell me how to listen to the planets. Maybe you are. I don't know. But I'll definitely try to listen for that. I'll look for that here after a while. Yes, she does, Carol. I agree with you there. She's had some of her photos of birds, like I said, just blow me away. Birds are something I always tried to work on, and have a few decent pictures of birds, but not like she's got. I mean, I tell you, she's good. She's got some good work. Yeah, Mike. Why are you not? Oh, I know why you're not. You can post it, or you can send it to me on Instagram. That's fine. Or you can put it in here so everybody can have it, or you can do both. That way I won't lose it, and everybody else that wants to listen can do that. Hey, Pearl. Good morning, ma'am. Glad you could pop in for a few minutes. We're not winding down, but it's always time to say hi to you. Thank you, Mike. I will listen to that just as soon as we are finished. Now I lost the chat. There it is. What time are you on tonight, Shelley? Let us know, because I'm bad about forgetting these things. Well, excuse me, Pearl. I know it's even now. It's still early for you, so not saying you sleep late. I'm just saying it's still early out there. I guess about 8. Um, honestly, I get up about this time every day, but most of the time I lay back down and take a nap. So honestly, can't say anything. I used to be up at 5:30 every day, and even when I was off, I was up at 5:30 drinking coffee and surfing the internet or reading or writing letters or drawing or something. And one of these days I want to get back to that. But right now I'm just mostly taking naps. I'm not doing working out or something or doing therapy. 8:30 a.m. Okay. Wow, Pearl, I hate to shut down with you just showing up. I'll hang around for you a little bit. We can still talk. And if folks have something else you got to do, I totally understand if you need to leave. And if you want to hang around, by all means do. And, like I said, I can sit here and run my mouth most of the day if I need to. Midnight Eastern time, or is it midnight Central, Shelley? I'm going to guess it's Eastern. Pearl, I hope it gets better. I know the feeling. I haven't slept in ages, not through the night. Well, that's it, Tina. I got out of the habit when I retired. I just, I kind of thought, well, for a little while, I'm just not going to worry about getting up. And all my friends that were retired told me the same thing. The, wake up time just kept pushing back. Their day didn't start till about 9 o'clock. So I guess I'm kind of in that same boat, Tina. I don't know. You just kind of get used to it. Okay, Shelley, I'll probably be awake. I'll see if I can try to get in there if I don't forget. I'll set an alarm or set a reminder or something, see if I can get in there for a while. It's not that I'm asleep. I'm always awake at midnight. Most of the time by midnight, I'm watching documentaries or something on YouTube. That's become my late night go-to for interesting topics, or unless somebody's on talking or chatting or streaming. Ooh, 5:45. I don't even like to think about that anymore. I did that for 40 years, but it's harder to do these days. I get up that early when I'm going somewhere with a friend of mine or something, but man, you're right. It kills it usually kills the rest of my day. If we're going somewhere and it's far away, I'll get him to drive and then I can sleep in the car. I was wondering how he's retired now too. I was wondering how that's changed for him. He used to get on me for not getting up early. And he said, I thought you always got up at, before 6 a.m. And I said, I used to be, but things change when you're retired. Well, Pearl, that's the kind of thing I'll probably be watching. I'm fascinated by some of that stuff. And I've had this strange fascination for learning about fascism and how the Nazis came to power. And I'm not a fan by any means, but I've been curious to see how they went about it. And so I've been watching some of that stuff. I don't watch it too late, though. I'm worried it'll keep me up. But that and just how they build things. I mean, I'm a gearhead at heart, so I'm always trying to learn how they make things. Joy, I've been there, done that too. Babies and puppies both will will get you up in the middle of the night or early in the morning. I hope you can lay back down and take a nap after the puppy goes out or whatever. My mom, bless her heart and God rest her soul, she just wanted to strangle me as a kid, because as a kid, I would do that to her. I would get up early in the morning, and on a Saturday or a Sunday, mostly Saturdays, I guess, after I started school, and she wanted me to go back to bed so bad. Go lay down, go take a nap, go back to sleep. I want to sleep late. That's her one morning of the day when she could sleep in, and here I was trying to get her up to, fix breakfast or watch cartoons or something. And yeah, full grown dogs. Honestly, Tina, that's one reason why we don't have any dogs right now. I mean, we've got cats, but I don't have to get up and let them out or anything. So they're kind of on their own, except for, if we're going to feed them or something. But, and they will wake us up if it gets too late, if they're hungry. But most of the time, that's the thing with dogs, because they got to go out, and you got to get up and take them for a walk or whatever. Yeah, I think if Blue Nose is still in here, I think he had to get up super early yesterday too, or either that or it was Thursday morning. He had to go get blood drawn. He had to do it real early. I think he had to get up at 5:30 to go do that. Yes, Pearl, this is Teddy. He's the co-host of the show. He's wanting me to rename the show Saturday Morning Shine with Teddy and Tim, but I hadn't got around to that yet. But he would, he personally thinks he should get top billing. He's a lot cuter, I'll have to admit. That's true, Tina. We dog sit from time to time with our daughter's pets. They both have a dog or dogs, and we get them often. And when they're going to go out of town, they just bring them over to the grandparents and drop them off. So we have to put up with them while they're here for a week or so. Well, this guy's a handful, Pearl, as you can see. He's a cuddle cat about half the time, and then sometimes he just wants to be left alone. But he's definitely my boy. He doesn't really. I mean, he likes my wife fine, but he doesn't really climb up and get in her lap like he does me all the time. And I don't know if that's because I'm the one that brought him home or what. Who's down there? He's nosy though. Anything that moves makes a noise, or he thinks moves or makes a noise. He's got to get down and look at it. But he's a sweetheart, aren't you? Yeah. Teddy Pockets is his name. I named him that because when I first found him, he could fit in my shirt pocket. He was so little. I'll never have a pocket this big anymore. This would be a 20-pound plus pocket. So, Pearl, is the sun shining in the great Northwest, or is it a typical Northwest day? They're talking about you on here. Did I say he was stubborn too, if he took a notion to be? He's been, since I've been sick, or when I couldn't walk, he stayed with me quite a bit on the bed. He's good company for the most part. He listens when I talk, and you hardly ever backsass, do you? Every once in a while, he's got an opinion to state, but for the most part, he behaves himself. 61 degrees. I think we're supposed to be in that neighborhood today too. I think it's going to be off. And he's my service cat. Yes, he is. He's my comfort cat, my service animal. Yes, or comfort animal, whatever they call them. And I found him in the bed of a pickup truck on a 20-degree day and half froze to death. And he hasn't really ever wanted to go back outside since I brought him home. Funny thing about that, I think he's got a long memory. He and his sister both. Except he spent an extra night in the back of the truck, and we didn't know he was in there. We didn't find him the first day. We found 2 little girl cats and I thought we'd give them away. We gave one of them away. My wife decided she wanted the other one. Or we might keep the other one. We weren't sure. But then when he showed up the next day, we decided to keep both of them since they were siblings. And they couldn't be more different. I tell you, personality is different. Size is so different. She's tiny compared to him. I don't know what she weighs, but it's a fraction of his weight and size. She's a little bitty cat. Probably a normal cat. He's a big cat. They are. Sometimes people don't give them credit for that, Pearl, but you're right. I think they're very intelligent. I've had cats that could open doors. I had a cat that he attempted to. He couldn't always grab it, but he'd take a doorknob and put his paws on it and do like this to open the door. If he had a straight pull handle, he could open the door and gone through anything, because he figured that out real quick. Yeah, he had to go check something out. Probably find a better, more comfortable, quiet place to sleep. That's what he does best. But that one cat he could work a door handle. Just, he figured it out. I mean, I didn't teach him that. He just observed and figured out that, hey, you got to turn this thing. I can get outside, or I can get through the other room, or whatever. This one, he sees a shut door, and he just throws his body weight against it and see if he can knock it open. Sometimes he can. Sometimes it just sounds like he's knocking the whole house down. I have to get up and let him in. Which is a whole nother topic. Feral cats that I have serious opinions about. All of our cats are indoor cats. I grew up with outdoor cats. And of course, my grandparents usually had cats in the barn for mice or mousers. But I've had to work around some feral cats, and feral cats can be a real problem. They are natural born killers, and they are devastating to wildlife populations, far more than people think. And I love cats. I'm not kicking the cats, but feral cats are a bad cracker, I'm afraid. Well, Mike Wheeler, I am so happy you were here, buddy. You always make my day. And I appreciate you being here so much. And you will have no idea. And Mike saved my butt a couple of times by calling me to wake me up and remind me I had a stream going, or I was supposed to be somewhere. And I appreciate that, Mike. And you have a good day, buddy. You're always welcome, and I'm always glad to see you. And you're welcome to call or send me a note anytime. I'm here for you. Okay, did everybody just see my screen scramble? I'm asking this because I see that happen to other people sometimes, but I never hear anybody mention it. So I don't know if it's my computer, my signal, or what it is. But it just did it again over here while we were talking in the AOL window. And I just like to know if anybody else saw it. I know Mike didn't, but somebody else might have. I know that, Mike, and I appreciate it. I really do. You have a great day, buddy. You're amazing. So just take care. Yeah, it was just right. It should have been just right before I asked the question, Pearl. That's what I suspect. I think it's something on my camera or my computer. Because it happens when other people are streaming. I'll be sitting here watching, all of a sudden, It just gets these lines through it and blurs out, and then it comes back. And I've suspected it was on mine because I never hear anybody else say anything about it, but I've never asked anybody. Well, nobody saw it, so I'm thinking it's just on this end. Good to know. I just replaced this computer, I think, last year, and I think I'm already need something a lot better, especially if I'm going to continue to stream. And I think I probably didn't buy a current enough video card or something. I think next time I'm going to have to spend a little bit more money on my computer. Well, if none of you saw it, then it must not have happened. Could be my imagination. Excuse me. Twilight Zone. I'll check that, Pearl. I can't just really get to them right now because I've got this rigged up here. When I worked the last 10 years or so, I had 2 monitors because I was always working with spreadsheets and writing emails and writing Word documents and comparing the two and doing reports and whatnot. So it was a whole lot easier if I had, or doing environmental reviews where I was checking for endangered species. And it's just always a lot easier if you can spread that out. So I got used to having 2 monitors. Well, I decided I wanted 2 here, especially if I was going to start streaming so I could watch both. And wait a minute, a fancy plaid screen. I have to know that story. Anyway, I'll tell you about this harrowing story about my monitor. So I was online one day and I was looking at Dell stuff, and lo and behold, they had a deal. It said you could buy 2 monitors and this really nice mount to mount 2 monitors on your desk, and you could get it all for $150 or something, 180 maybe. Well, that's the mount costs more than that. That's why I had never gotten one for home. So I looked at that for a minute. I said, man, I got to check on that. So I called Dell, or got on the line with them, and I verified it. I asked the guy, I said, I'm looking at this deal that you've got online, and it says it comes with 2 monitors, the size I wanted, 21 or 22 or 23 inches. And I said, it comes with this, and it says it comes with this double arm mount that hooks on my desk, and I can mount 2 monitors to it. I said, is that what it says, or am I misreading it? So he or she goes back and looks and counts. He said, no, that's what it is. It's 2 monitors and the mount system for that price. And he said, that's a really good deal. He said, it was less than half price. And I thought, man, if I'm ever going to blow the money or spend money for that, I need to do it now. So I ordered it. Well, I waited and I waited and I waited, and it never came in. So I kept looking for it, and I contacted Dell, and they said, well, we've got it. I don't know if it's back ordered or something, but they said you should be getting it soon. Well, eventually I got just the mount. I opened it up. I said, well, this is really nice, but where's the rest of it? So I contacted them again. They said, well, you didn't get a monitor? And I said, no. I said, I was supposed to get 2 monitors. So they dug around. I think what happened was that sale wasn't supposed to be posted, and it either wasn't a thing or it was over, or maybe it was just for, who knows, it might have been for government officials or government buyers. I don't know. But I insisted because I had documentation. I had emails that stated quite clearly that for that price, I would get 2 monitors and the mount. So I pled my case, and I kept working on it. I finally did get a monitor. Still didn't get number 2 monitor. So I'm waiting, and I finally I got a case representative for it because they were trying to make it right. Because I was telling them, I said, I've been buying Dell stuff for 20 years almost, and I said, I'm really disappointed that this is happening. And if you're not going to do it, just tell me. I mean, I think you should, but if you're not, we'll just start all over again. I'll get my money back, and we'll go from there. So in the end, this is horrible. I shouldn't say this on the computer probably. So in the end, they sent me 2 more computers, or 2 more monitors. So I finally got my dual monitors and my mount and everything for that price. And I think after all my troubles, maybe they just decided to send me the extra monitor. Yeah, it was legit at the time. I don't know if they're still doing it. I hadn't been back on there, Pearl, but I mean, I specifically contacted Dell to ask them, is this true? Is this 2 monitors and this mount? And they said, yes, it is. And the guy told me, he said, that's a really good deal on those. He said, that probably won't be around for a long time. I said, then I'm going to do it. And I, had enough money at that time to order it. So I did. And it took me a little while to get it. And I noticed it went off the website for a while. I haven't looked back to see if it was still there. And in the end, I got everything I wanted and actually got a better deal. But it took a little while. But I will say this: they made it right. And so when I get an upgrade on my next computer, I'll probably go back to Dell. I mean, I've had good luck with their computers. So I used them at work for years and had them at home since the early days. My first computers were Packard Bells. Anybody else remember Packard Bells? Yeah, that was kind of the problem I was having, Pearl. My monitors. I might have had 2 monitors set up here for a little bit. Well, I'm not sure. I was trying to do 2, and but one of them developed a line across it, and it started getting wider. So wider. So I knew I was going to have to do something. But as it turns out, I've got a good spare now. Well, that's what I thought, Carol. I mean, it was a hassle, and I was pretty aggravated for a while about it. And then in the end, they did make it right, and I'll for their benefit, and this may have had more to do with it than I realized at the time. But it was in the middle of COVID last fall, actually probably right when things were getting worse, and it could have had a lot to do with it. Christmas was coming. I'm not sure exactly what month I ordered it and got it, but I ordered it like in September, and I think it was maybe November before I actually got everything in. But so there was a lot going on, and so that definitely could have played into it. They may have been having trouble getting them from their source, wherever they're getting them from. They're made China or wherever. Nashville was usually where they ship them from. When I get something from them around here, they've got a big distribution center. And it was a hassle, and I was getting kind of short-tempered there for a while. But once I thought they were genuinely trying to fix it for me, I would calm down quite a bit. But I still thought it took too long, and I sent a letter saying that, which may be why I got response finally. But I don't know. Oh my God, a TRS-80. I used to work on a TRS-80 a little bit. That was I don't know if I remember the Timex, Pearl. But we had a TRS-80 in our shop at work. A buddy of mine was a quality control inspector in our shop, and he was learning about computers at that time. This was in the early 80s, early to mid 80s. And he wanted to try to set up a database with all of our planes on it so we could keep track of maintenance and that sort of stuff, which I'm sure people were doing, but to us, it was out there because we hadn't ever had anything like that. And he personally bought a TRS-80 and brought it in the office and figured out how to load some software, got some software. Thing didn't have a hard drive. You had to run everything off a floppy disk. And I think it had 2 floppy drives. Well, that's about the right time. He came to work for us in 82. It was probably about 85 or so when he started doing this. But he had to run, everything had to be run. He had to boot everything up off this floppy disk, the big ones. And, but he did a great job with it. And he finally showed me how to use it just a little bit if I need to look something up. Well, that's cool. Well, maybe that's cool. I don't know. Did that work out pretty well, Pearl? Do you have any problems with the cassettes? Like I said, he ran floppy drives, and like I said, they were the big, paper ones. They were really floppy. And then eventually the company bought some other stuff. I don't remember what they were. But I think he converted everything over to, like spread. What's Microsoft? Excel spreadsheet or something, and started doing it that way. But I've thought back on that so many times that computer had no memory and it was super slow. Of course, he really wasn't using it on the internet. It was just, based in the office. But the thing worked. I mean, it did what he wanted it to do. Of course, it was monochromatic screen and all that. Trash 80s. That's exact, Carol. That's what he called his, a Trash 80. The only time I've ever used an Apple, well, that wasn't an Apple. That was a Radio Shack. The only time I've ever really used an Apple computer or Macintosh was I took a class in college for a writing course. I can't remember what that title was. And we had to use their old Apple computers, and they were old ones, little small ones. Everything was built together, and I had never used an Apple. I grew up. A friend of mine was a Windows fan or a IBM fan, I guess. Really, not so much a Windows fan, but he taught me how to use one and got me started. That's all I ever knew. I never had any formal classes till I went to college, and so I had no idea how to use that Apple. It took me half the semester just to figure out how to make it work. Oh, that's cool, Pearl. The only other ones I remember from that time period were, they make Texas Instruments. They made some small computers in that time period. They lasted for not very long, 2 or 3 years, I think, but they were somewhat cheaper than the TRS-80. I almost bought one time just to have something, but I didn't. And then later they went kind of Tango uniform. They quit making them, which is probably a good reason not to have one. Okay, I got to know what kind of dog racing form you made there, Carol. Are you a dog racing fan, or did you just do something else with it? Oh, that's fun. Tango uniform. Yeah, I'm glad somebody understands it. A lot of people don't. When I another my terminology that came through from the aircraft business. Most people don't know what that means, so I'll probably let it go with that. Oh, okay. So it wasn't something you could use to bet on the pups. It was a game, more like a game or something to watch them run. That's cool. I just wondered if you were a dog track person. Some people like to go watch the dogs run. And I guess some people think that's a cruel thing. I don't know how they're treated. Probably not as well as they should be. But I know one thing about dogs like that. They love to run. It's like huskies. Huskies absolutely love to be running. They want to get out and pull a sled or whatever. They just like to go. And when they want to go, it's hard to stop them. I've had one. They were pretty stubborn. What do you want, buddy? You come back for some more loving? I got to show you something for if he'll let me pick him up and hold him. I'm going to show you guys something. I don't know who's left in here. Maybe just Carol and Pearl. But I want you to look at his forehead, because to me, his forehead blaze above his nose looks like Cinderella Castle. Come here. Come here and look at the camera just a second. Look at the camera. Be still. See it? Can you see it there? See all the spires and the central part of the castle and the different turrets? I swear he's marked perfect for me. He's a Cinderella Castle cat. We may have talked about that, Pearl. Did you skydive when you were in college? I mean, that's something. Someplace I hung out was at the jump school. Magical. That's right. He's a magical kitty. Hey, Shelly, you're still here. Good. Did you see the kitty's magic blaze there? Looks like the castle. It really does. I mean, he's got the right number of peaks for spires, and he's not as impressed about it, but I think it's cool. When I was in high school, Pearl, I was already in the airplanes. I was already starting to fly, and I was already starting to work on them and restoring a couple of old ones. And so, I spent my weekends and just about any time I could get down there at a little country airport down by the Nolichucky River called Decker's Field. And it was a grass strip, and that was the local skydiving school / location. Not like every place has got a skydiving school, but so I hung out down there, and I wanted to jump so bad. I mean, and then I would have done it because I was immortal back then. I mean, geez, nothing's going to happen to me. But because I was under 18, I'd have my parents' permission, and I guess I could have forced it, but I couldn't make myself do that for them. I had enough respect not to do that, but I wanted to jump so bad. So I went through a lot of the training and stuff, but I never got to do it. And then after I was 18, I never seemed to have the money or the time to go out and do it. Now I'm too old. Well, I'm not too old. I've seen people jump into their 90s, but I can't imagine what it'd do to my back if I hit the ground. Hey, Chris, you go take it easy, buddy, and we'll talk soon. I'm sorry I didn't call you yesterday. Like I said, I got kind of bumfuzzled yesterday, but we'll talk soon. And I hope you feel better. I hope you feel better. And keep us posted on what your situation is, and if you're going in for surgery, we want to know. If I could get up there, I sure would. I'd come sit by your side if they'd let me, but I don't know if they'd let me. So, but I'm going to be COVID safe in about 3 or 4 weeks. So keep me in mind. Oh, Pearl, my girl. I've worked on just about all of those things. Maybe not a Citabra, but I helped rebuild a Stearman. Don't remember what year it was made. I know the end number was 622 sugar, November 622 sugar, and it was a barn find, literally. A friend of mine and a friend of his found it, and actually the friend of his was one that had some money, so he paid for it, more or less. But he brought it to the town I lived in because we had this old mechanic at another local airport that grew up working on that kind of airplane, cloth covered frame, wooden wings, that kind of stuff. And he was meticulous and an expert at that stuff. He could do beautiful work. And bye, Chris. You take care, my friend. And so that's how I kind of got my feet wet into the airplane mechanic, and to help put that together was amazing. And so I got to fly in that Stearman. That's the only open cockpit airplane I've ever flown in, and flew it a few times. And it was just, man, I was in heaven to fly it. Unfortunately, a few years later, the guy that actually owned it crashed it. He had a control issue. They think he was doing some stunts with it and maybe got into a spin, and they think, I don't know where they got this. Maybe they found this when they found the wreck, but they thought he got his foot tangled up in the rudder pedals and couldn't get it, straightened out and hit the ground. I don't know. But I love that. I just thought that was the neatest. I still have a spot in my heart for that airplane. I just think they're so cool. Had a control stick in it about this big around, solid oak. They painted this one up in I think it was the U.S. Air Force, Army Air Force colors for a trainer, yellow and blue. Chris will correct me if that's wrong, if that's the Navy color, but I think Navy was white with different markings. Is that bacon and hamburgers are done? Well, why didn't you invite us up for breakfast or lunch, Shelley? I like hamburgers. I like bacon. Okay. Well, if you're still here, Chris, you keep us posted. I want to know what's going on, bud. Ah, damn, Pearl, that's tough. I lost a couple friends skydiving too. Um, it's tough, but it does happen. I lost when I was actually in the business for a living. We lost several pilots over the years that were, I would consider friends. They were clients, but some of them were friends, people you talk to. Sometimes you went out and had a beer with while they were in town, that kind of guys. And one of them was actually a local pilot who flew for a company there in town. I won't mention their name. Some people might know who they are, but they had started getting some of their maintenance at another base besides ours. And it's people actually that owned the airplane. They were doing some of the work on it. And it was, I'm going to say it was questionable at best at times. And he came up to our place to get something looked at on one of his engines. And while he was there, they called and said, "No, bring it back down here. We'll take care of it. Don't let them work on it. We don't want to pay them to do it." So we had to batten it back up, and let him go. And he was on takeoff, and the engine quit, and he spiraled right into the ground with it. We were all standing there literally at the hangar doors and saw it happen. And he was kind of a strange duck in that even when he was maintenance chief of his own crew, a different company, he was a little cheap. I mean, he was a little tight with the dollars. Most of those guys are. That's one of the reasons I got out of the business eventually, was I just thought people wanted to take too many shortcuts. But bye, Shelly. I don't think I said bye. I was just giving you a hard time about the hamburger. So if you're still here, see you later. Hopefully I'll see you tonight. I'll try to be there. If Mike's there, he'll probably call me and tell me to wake up. Anyway, had another pilot that worked out of Indianapolis, and he was on takeoff, and a Baron flew right in the side of his airplane. So it happened. Yep. Did he teach you the old saying, Pearl, that how'd that go? Two most useless things to a pilot are runway behind you and altitude above you. I'm not going. I'll be right back, guys. Okay. I had to blow my nose. I forgot to mute the microphone. You probably all know that by now. Pearl, I met a guy. He was a brother-in-law of one of my best friends in high school, and he was the pilot, and he's the one that got me into flying and maintenance and just all things airplanes. And over the years, I realized just how good a pilot he was. He was not, I can't say he's not a professional pilot, because he did fly professionally. I mean, he was an instructor on multiple aircraft types and stuff. He flew some charter for people. He took some jobs off and on flying freight and different things like that. He never worked for an airline or anything that I'm aware of. But over the years, as I flew with professionals that I worked with and would have to go on test flights and stuff with him, I realized that he was the only person that I ever flew with that I was never concerned about anything. I knew that he could handle it. It didn't matter what it was. He flew by the seat of his pants. He didn't have to rely on everything that was, not that he didn't, but he didn't have to rely on everything that was in front of him. And hell or be damned, he's going to go by the instruments. He knew what the airplane was doing, what it wanted to do, what it was going to do. And I was so comfortable with him. And I was, for the most part, comfortable with, test flights sometimes. But I'll tell you, I flew with a few professional pilots that flew for companies whose airplanes I maintained or we worked on. And I flew with them once and said, never again. you're not getting me back in that airplane with that guy because he don't know what the hell he's doing. And some of those guys did eventually not make it back, but it was, I don't know. There's a lot of guys that fly. There's a lot of guys that think they know how to fly, and then there's those that really do know how to fly. And I've flown with some really good ones. I still say Steve was the best pure pilot I ever flew with. And I had a friend that flew for, he was from South Georgia. He flew for a bakery whose name is eluding me right now. I'll think of it in a minute. Big bakery. They're all over the country now, I think, but he flew for them, and he was ex-military. Not sure what he flew in the military, but the airplane types that he had at that time, their company had, he was one of the best pilots I ever saw too. And I never worried with him. I mean, he could do things with that airplane that I never saw anybody else do. And never once did the airplane outrun him or get ahead of him. He was always right on top of everything. So he was another good one. But as you get spoiled by those kind, because the next guy, I don't know who's left in here before I say something. The next guy, pardon the expression, might not know shit from Shinola. And some of those guys can be scary. Luscombe's are neat little airplanes. I've flown, or my buddy Steve had a Luscombe for a little while. I don't know if I ever got to fly in it. He had a knack for finding, old used airplanes and getting them fixed back up so he could fly them or sell them. Sometimes he flipped them. He'd usually fly them for a while and then sell them to somebody else and go look for something new. And that's just kind of how he went along. But he had thousands and thousands of flight hours logged to the point where at some point he just quit writing them down. And he just felt like he didn't need the hours anymore to prove anything. He had over 10,000 hours or something flying small planes. And I don't remember exactly how many, but he had a lot. And my last flight with him, unfortunately, he developed brain cancer, a tumor that they couldn't operate on, and back around 2000. And it slowly but surely took over and he couldn't fly. But one of the last times I was up in an airplane was with him. And he had a popper cub sitting out in his barn at his farm. And we went out there and rolled it outside and aired the tires up a little bit. And I propped it off. It didn't have a starter on it, which a lot of them didn't. And I propped him off and climbed in the front seat of that popper. And we just took off down the field, a hay field in front of his house. Hit a couple of little knobs in the field. And yeah, stick and rudder tail dragger. There's nothing like that, that's for sure. And boom, bounced off there. And what I remembered about it was how loud it was. It didn't really have an exhaust on it, just straight pops out the engine, which, again, a lot of those old ones did. Man, that thing was loud. But we flew along and just flying, and, everything's good. And finally, he points at something on the dash, and he's sitting behind me, and he's, okay, the airspeed ain't working. I thought, wow. Most people couldn't fly an airplane without their airspeed indicator, and he was just flying along. Probably had something stuck in it that we didn't catch. I don't know. It didn't worry me. We flew around for a while and eventually came around, landed in the field, and taxied back up to the hangar. And that was the last time I ever got to fly with him. That was fun. That was a good last time, I guess. But we flew in some other stuff over here, Stinsons and Cessnas and Air Coops. Air Coop was one of my favorite little airplanes. They were easy to fly. And in fact, there was an Air Coop that I first flew over Disney World in the early 70s when they were still working on part of it. And I helped rebuild a couple of tail draggers when I was between aircraft mechanic officially and going back to college in the summers. I helped rebuild a Taylorcraft. Or not a Taylorcraft, back up, a Piper Pacer, which started out with tri-gear. They called them tri-pacers at that point. Actually, they started out as tail draggers, moved into a tricycle gear formation, which they called a tri-pacer. But a lot of people wanted to convert them back to the Pacer version, which was tail dragger, because they were a little faster and flew a little better. And So a guy had one converted, but he didn't have anybody to put it back together and rebuild it, finish it, and fly it with. And I helped him get that flying and certified. That was quite a bit of fun. I spent that summer down on the farm, the old Deckers field where I used to watch them skydive, and hung out down there pretty much by myself all summer, putting that airplane back together. It was interesting, but it all worked out. We got it flying, and I'm sure he sold it sometime after that. And he bought I don't know if he already had it. He bought a 180 Cessna that had been crashed. It was a big tail dragger. And I worked on that for a while until my buddy Steve died. And I don't know, things just kind of fell apart on that deal. And I just walked away from it. I was just too, part of it was because my friend died. I just couldn't look at it anymore. Yeah, they kind of did, Pearl. They were sort of, they weren't the prettiest airplanes out there. They looked a lot better on tail with a tailwheel than they did on tri-gear, because on tri-gear, somebody described them once to me as a French prostitute, all ass and no visible means of support. Pardon the expression. But those kind of airplanes are fun. I sometimes I'd still like to go back and fly some more and do some of that kind of stuff. I always wanted to build a home built. Never got around to it. Glass airs were cool. As I recall, they were pretty fast, for one thing. I looked recently online. There's some really interesting new airplanes out there that they're actually factory built that look a lot like some of the home builts that are really quite impressive. And some of the power plants that are coming out with now are very interesting, a lot more fuel efficient. I saw some inline 4-cylinders the other day. They're made by a West German company, or a German company. And they actually there's actually some people making small diesels now that will fit in an airplane, which is something people tried to do for generations, but they were always too heavy. They couldn't overcome the weight. So most of the time they gave up on that, but it was always a thought out there. Hung around when I was rebuilding that Tri-Pacer, that Pacer, that summer. There was a bunch of power gliders, ultralight people hanging out down there. So I got to learn a little bit about that stuff too. One guy had a 2-seater he trained with, which was sort of a catch-22. You weren't supposed to take a passenger up in a ultralight, but you couldn't train a pilot to fly an ultralight unless you had a 2-seater. So it was kind of strange. But that was interesting to hang out with those guys for a little while. I'm trying to remember if I flew in that ultralight. I can't remember if I did or not. I may or may not have. I'm not sure. I'm a little bit hesitant when something like that, and I don't work on it, as you can imagine. Carol, are you still out there? Or is it down to Pearl and I? I guess I could look and see. I think it's just you and I, which is fine. That's nothing wrong with that. But I also don't want you to feel obligated to hang around. Pitts will do that. Pitts, I never flew in the Pitts, but that used to be the shit hot thing to have if you wanted to do aerobatics. They were fast and tiny. They were little, and yes, they would aerobatics they could do with those things because they were so small. So they were amazing. Chris was telling me recently that he named off something newer that people flying a lot of aerobatics now that was probably even quicker than a Pitts, but I can't remember what it was. He knows more of that stuff. I've got out of it for a while and didn't keep up with it. It's always got a place in my heart because I just lived around them for so long. And like I said, I've always been a gearhead. Okay, Carol, that's fine. I just didn't know. I didn't want to jump out if you were still here, or because we're probably shut down here in just a few minutes. Pearl's got to go, and you're busy, and I need to change my seating position a little bit. My lower back and hips are starting to hurt a little bit. Well, they actually have been for a little bit. But Pearl, we have to talk more about airplanes. Chris would love to talk about. He loves to talk airplanes. You know, he's got. You probably know all this, but he's got some time with some warbirds, helping rebuild and maintain that sort of thing. And Pearl, I'm sorry to hear that. I was hoping that was getting better. Dean, I wondered what happened to you because you told me you would be here this morning. We're just still, a couple of us still hanging out. And most everybody left, had things to do. But Pearl got here a little bit later too, so I hung around with her, and we're just shooting the crap about airplanes right now. And now you're here, so, you know, I'll hang around with you just a little bit. But how old are your nephews, Dean? Do you share turkey legs with them? That would be the true sign of family. Yeah, Dean, I don't usually stay this long. I can, but I usually don't because there's a lot of people. And this morning, I think the airwaves are burning up with people streaming. I can't remember if I asked Mike, but is the weather down there pretty good? Because I think there's a lot of people in the parks today. Excuse me, I'm sorry. God, can you tell I'm a hillbilly? That they're belching on the line. Pearl, I believe that. You just got to keep at it, and it's going to happen. I've listened to not all your music, but enough to know it's pretty good, interesting, and I like it. So keep it up. I mean, you're doing something that I always wished I could do. I can't carry a tune in a bucket, and I never was able to play any instrument, which I always wanted to. Tried a few things, never wanted to play a guitar real bad. And my fingers I couldn't make my fat fingers work on the strings real well. Probably could have played a bass maybe, but never quite got it. But you use, I guess yours is on the keyboard or your computer mostly. I'm guessing. I don't know. You may play everything. Well, that explains it, Dean. That's why so many people are out in the parks, I guess, today. It's nice weather. It's not too hot, and high 80s won't be too bad. Of course, anytime the sun's out in Florida, it's, you know, burning. Wow, 4-2 and 1 month old. I bet that was a hoot. That 4-year-old and that 2-year-old are probably rock'em sock'em robots at this point. Dean, have I asked you before, are you a native Floridian, or did you guys move down there at some point in your life? Oh, wow, Pearl, you're multi-talented. I really appreciate people who can do that, especially if they write music. Wendy Lou, who, all the way from Scotland, what are you doing, lady? Good morning or good afternoon to you. Well, it's about good afternoon here too. I guess it is afternoon here. Goodness gracious, it's 21 after. Good to see you. Your time difference is so much. I didn't know, what somebody like you would be up to this time of morning or this time of day. I'm actually running a bit long, Wendy. If you're wondering, I start at 10. We usually quit about 11:30, but a few people can hang around, so we just stayed and kept talking. Hopefully, I'm not getting anybody in trouble or taking anybody away from anything. But certainly glad to see you here. I'd like to have a conversation with you someday about all things Scottish. I can track some of my heritage back to Scotland, more of it to Ireland. But for a long time, I've had this desire to use a kilt. And I always want to make sure I got the tartan right, and I have looked them up. I guess I could, but a lady day, does that mean like a spa day, nails and massage and that kind of thing? Or does that mean something else over there? Oh, lazy, not lady. Okay. Well, that's perfectly fine. I have lazy days pretty regularly. I was just telling Pearl how much I find it interesting that she's able to used to play so many instruments. I see people who are like that and can pick up just about anything and play it. And I'm impressed That's not the word I'm looking for. I envy them probably because they can. The I just I'm just oh, that's cool, Pearl. I've got probably more Irish, and I have found that there is actually an Irish. The Irish wore kilts sometimes. Often, I think they were different than Scottish kilts. And Wendy, you're welcome to jump in there if you know. But there is an Irish American plaid that people sell, and I've thought about getting that. My second grandfather, maybe it might be my third, but in 18, right at the end of the potato famine in the early 1850s, he came over here from Ireland and in the south part of the republic, and they settled. They came through North Carolina and then settled in the mountains here in East Tennessee. And uh, my grandmother was, I guess she was second generation, so I guess that'd be my third great grandfather. But it's not been that far back. I mean, when I think about it, when I was born, they hadn't been here 100 years yet, and or had just been here 100 years. So I thought that was cool. And looking up some of this stuff recently, we've tracked another great grandfather, I think 7 times that did live in Scotland. I can't remember the area now. So I can track some of it back there. I never really wanted to wear a kilt or a plaid, a tartan, unless I knew it was right. I'm just funny like that. If it's not mine, I don't want to wear somebody else. I don't want to steal some heritage here. I want it to be correct. Oh, well, that's cool, Carol. When did they come over here? Or did you come without them? That's Which one was Scottish, your mom or your dad? Well, you're native adjacent, Dean. In my lifetime, I've only known a few true native Floridians. I went to school and lived with a guy for a while in Florida. We shared an apartment, and he was a native Floridian. And honestly, I loved that guy to death. In fact, he came up here and was my best man at my wedding. But they had their quirks. They were, well, I'm not going to say too deep, but let's put it this way: they figured anybody that was from anywhere north of the Florida state line was a Yankee, and honestly didn't have a lot of use for them. Sometimes they blew me away how bigoted they were towards even everybody. I mean, if you weren't from there, you were white trash, I guess. Oh, your mom's parents came here in 1920. So they came over here. They beat my they came over 60 years after my grandfather did. Something I found interesting, and I'll say this, and then you guys can say if you. I grew up in what most people refer to as the Bible Belt, or at least the buckle part of the Bible Belt, and they used to anyway. We used to joke about that. But mostly Protestant churches in this area. I didn't know diddly squat about Catholics. I knew after I got to high school, I knew there were some Catholics that lived around us. One family, in fact, one family is all I knew about. And I'm not even sure where they went to church, if they did, or mass. I guess somewhere in Johnson City. But it wasn't anything I knew much about. And honestly, to grow up around Protestants like that, a lot of them didn't think Catholics were worthy, which I never really understood. But anyway, that's another topic. But my grandparents came over from Ireland, and they were definitely Roman Catholic. And I figured that might have had something to do with why they came here anyway. I mean, since Protestants the English had already converted everybody over and been over there policing the area, and Protestants and Catholics did not get along. I mean, maybe still don't, but it was just I found that out, and I wondered, well, how long did they stay Catholic, or did they come over here and convert? Were they forced into that because there were no Catholics here, or was that just something that happened over time? I'd like to know the history on that. And I never never heard any of my family mention that ever. I mean, it was like something that either they didn't know or just soon forget. I always thought that was interesting once I found out. I will find out, Wendy. I will tell you where they were from. I just did that recently. My wife's got it written down. We've been doing some genealogy searching for several years now. That's one of the places she got. I had a DNA thing done, and for the most part, I came from the Mediterranean area and Ireland and a little Scottish mixed in there. And then on my mom's side, we had some Germanic peoples in there too. Sensible was their name. And there's about 20 different German spellings of Sensible once they got to America anyway. So McNichols. Oh, with an A. So that's proper Scottish, I believe. Oh, MC Nickel. Yeah, I was, Pearl, it's funny you said Scotch Irish. I mean, those two kind of run together in this part of the country. A lot of the mountain folk here had Scotch Irish heritage, and they say that had a lot to do with the bluegrass and mountain music that was so prevalent in this part of the country and world. West Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Western North Carolina. So I always hoped, I'm going to say hope, that I had Irish blood, but nobody ever looked it up until we started doing it. And so now I can honestly say, it's in there. I'm a pretty good mix. I don't know. There's something else I suspect, and most people may not have a clue what I'm talking about, but there's a group of people in this part of the world that were known as the Melungeons, and for the most part discriminated against. But history says that they were basically descendants of Portuguese and Mediterranean sailors that came over here early, and maybe moved inland, maybe lived with the Indians, maybe had native children. A lot of mixed blood, let's just say, to the point where by the time my parents would have been growing up, they were probably discriminated against heavily. And while nobody has ever said that's where they were from, my mom's family, are all olive complected. They don't sunburn. They have brown eyes. They have dark hair. They have all the physical characteristics of someone from that part of the country. And when we did our DNA check, I did have a fairly good swatch that came from that part of the country. So I think we're possibly have Melungeon in our background, which I would be proud to claim. I'm just that way. Some of these days I'll know more about that and see if I really am. But they're just isolated. That whole group of people are kind of isolated in some of the mountains around here, and they still exist. In fact, over the recent years, or last 15 to 20, they've started having family gatherings and things again. So they're kind of out in the open, but they were kind of discriminated against for a long time, at least around here. That is probably about what happened here, because my father, that grandfather, now that you say that, did come over here, and then I think he did marry a local. In fact, he may have had two different wives over the years, one that passed away and then another one. Now that you say that, I bet you that's what happened. He was probably converted from Catholic to Protestant so he could, live with the rest of the family, if you will. Okay. I will work on that, Wendy. I will find out and I will ask you if you don't mind. I have a friend of mine, Wendy, who's, I believe, has McFarland in their family tree. McIntosh. So, Wendy, one more question. I'm going to bug you to death about this, but Scottish, is it normally MAC, or it can be MC also? I always thought Scottish was more MAC and Irish was more MC, but that just may be something you know. Well, now that's probably, I can see that. Scottish were primarily Presbyterian or something, weren't they? Or Episcopalian or some combination thereof. I I've seen that, Pearl. I know how that works, or not how it works, but I've seen it. Um, I have a good friend that used to ride motorcycles with. I haven't seen him in a while now, but um, his last name was Ernie, Erny, and the story. And their family hadn't been in the States that long. I believe early turn of this last century, so 100 years. And the story in their family always was they came here. I'm not even sure where they came from, but their name was hard to spell and pronounce. So they changed it when they got here, which was not uncommon either. But the story in the family was somebody looked outside and saw a sign, and it was pointing up the river, and it said East River, New York, or Erny, and that they took that as their last name, Ernie. And so they've been Ernie's ever since, which makes it really difficult to trace back past Ernie because they don't know what their other name was. And I believe they were telling the truth, but I don't know how far back they've really tracked it. I mean, they believed it. Of course, that is the way it goes. I mean, usually other family members do. And sometimes it takes some digging and find out maybe that's not exactly how it happened. But I know I used to enjoy going to Highland games. They would have some Highland games in this area. They have them scattered around here quite often. Grandfather Mountain over the North Carolina Tennessee state line has some really big, or used to, Highland games that were celebrated usually around in July, first part of July, that were huge. And so, I'd like to go. I hadn't been to that one. I've been to smaller ones. There used to be some in Nashville once a year, and I was just always fascinated by some of that. There's a really funny and somewhat educational TV show now on over here. I can't remember what network's carrying it, but it's two guys that are on the TV show Outlander. Uh, I think it's called Men in Kilts Exploring Scotland or something like that. And oh, Wendy, I love that. I used to love to watch Highland dancing. And that was something else they would do at Highland games. They would usually have dancers hearing about. Well, Dean, you're welcome to jump in anytime. Oh, so you know the show, Wendy. It is a good show. I mean, they're funny. They're both nuts, I think, but I've learned some stuff from watching them already. Stuff I didn't know. Well, that's not hard. I don't know much, but um, the first episode they showed over here was they went to the Isle of Skye, or up in that area, but they went to Isla to tour a couple of Scotch factories up there, Scotch distilleries. Of course, I found that pretty fascinating. Being a Scotch lover or liker, enjoyer, whatever, partaker, user. Even though I'm drinking more Irish whiskey these days, but see, yeah, Skye is gorgeous. There's a lot of beautiful land over there. I mean, I'd like to tour both of them to tour the countryside. I'd love to go over there and rent a motorbike and travel around that way sometime, and maybe take a ferry over to Ireland. And well, I always wanted to go to the Isle of Man too, because that's a motorcycle mecca, sort of. Well, you don't have to hold that against you. Although, is that legal to be a Scots and not have any ever tasted whiskey? I mean, and I noticed you spell it without the E, so you are talking about Scottish whiskey. I would never push drinking on anybody, but and I don't drink probably as much as I let on sometimes, but I do like a nip occasionally. Okay, what is that when you say the North Coast 500? Is that like a touring area, or is that a race event? Because I'm not familiar with that if it is. Well, now, Pearl, I'm not going to disagree with that because I don't really like the really super peaty scotches either. I like stuff that's usually a little bit milder. I've got a bottle down here that is really peaty, really smoky, that somebody gave me for Christmas maybe 2 years ago, and I'm still working on it. It's not. It takes a little bit of getting used to. I'm not that keen on the peat either, but it's part of it. And if it's not too strong, then I can. I like the brand I really like is the Macallan, and I don't even know where it's made, but I like it. It's usually a little bit. It's not as peaty, and it's usually a lot smoother. That works, Wendy. And like I said, I wouldn't encourage anybody to start drinking. Well, I would like to do that, Wendy. If I ever get over there, that would be fun. If I get there the right time of year and get a few days when the sun was shining, not raining, and probably just ride in the rain too. But I would love to come over and do that. Well, guys, I tell you what, I've been on here way longer than I ever thought I would be, and I'm happy that you guys have hung around with me. Wendy, I am so glad you showed up, and Dean made it, and Pearl, you make me proud, sis, that you came in and hung out with us. Yeah, I know it's that's the whole thing about over there. It does rain a lot. Yeah, I guess you get used to it. It rains a lot where Pearl's at too, so it's not like it's the only place in the world it rains a lot. Wendy, I don't know. Is that your Facebook name? Because if it is, I'll find you. Pearl, you are most welcome, and I love you, and I love you being here, and it's always a pleasure when you show up. And uh, we have ties that maybe everybody doesn't have. But, I really appreciate that, and I don't give you enough credit where it's due. I'm a bad brother sometimes. I know I'm too self-absorbed and don't always get up when you're online and stuff. But Wendy Taylor. Okay, Wendy, I'll look. I don't know if we are or not, but I will put you on there. And I am on Instagram. It's just Tim Pruitt 1957 on Instagram. And I think it may all be one word. I can't remember if that's how they do it. But yeah, I will look you up, Wendy. I will put you on that list. I don't use Facebook as much as a lot of people, but I do use it. And it's a nice way to keep in touch with some people. I found that I'm on Instagram more than that, and than I ever thought I would be. It seems to be. I do have more conversations there and stuff, but that's right. We do, Pearl. That's exactly right. So we'll just keep on keeping on that way. And we got to talk more airplanes, Pearl. I mean, I'm sure you told me that before, but with my brain, Swiss cheese such as it is, uh, I might have killed that brain cell last week. I'm not sure. Moonshine will do that to you sometimes, they say. But we got to talk more about that. I remember you telling me that before, and then it had slipped my mind. So by all means, we'll do that again. And like I said, I've got to get and listen to more of your music, and I hope that works out. That you get to do some today, and whatever kind of new sound board or whatever you picked up today, I hope that works out for you. Dean, if you're still here, brother, I appreciate you showing up, and always glad to see you on. It's always good to see your smiling face. Carol, always a pleasure. Always great to see you in anywhere. And even if you're busy, you always make time and to say hi and hang around some when you can. And I really appreciate that. As a newbie rookie streamer, it's nice to have people around that and seem to care and want to be around. So I really do appreciate it. Wendy, you're always welcome to show up. Anytime you got a Saturday morning free, by all means, pop in and say hi, because I'm sure I can talk your ear off before it's over with. You may regret it, but we'll see. But it's certainly a pleasure for you to be here. Now, who else have I missed? Anybody? Pearl, I love you, and I'll see you soon. We'll probably run into each other somewhere later, maybe. Thanks, Wendy. You too. So it's been a great morning, guys. Like I said, we've been here a while. Thank you for hanging on and letting me yak and listen to my blather and maybe some of my blarney, so to speak. And you guys have given me more things to think about and more to talk about in the future. And I'm getting there. We'll see what happens. Josh and Lynn are going to maybe start doing some Saturday morning coffee and contemplations again. And I don't know what we'll do. We'll either just be on an hour before they do and then get off and go visit with them, or do it every other weekend or something. They were talking about alternating weekends, so I may work out something there. But whatever it is, I'll work it out with them, because they were kind enough to kind of give me this spot while they were off. And so I've enjoyed it. It gave me an opportunity to get on here and try it and make a fool out of myself and/or meet more friends. So I think I've met more friends than made a fool of myself so far. So everyone have a great Saturday, what's left of it. I appreciate you all being here. It's always good to see you all, and I appreciate it and love talking to all of you. And I appreciate your time to listen to me. And like I said, hear me blather and spill some trivia that maybe some know, maybe some don't. And, I love history and natural resources and all things like that. Airplanes, motorcycles, race cars, at least exotic ones. And so anyway, I'll see y'all again next time. Until next Saturday, keep it between the ditches, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.